I'm gonna be honest with you, the reason I keep doing these videos is because I'm trying to work on my verbal acuity. I've never been a teacher. I've never had to translate the way that I learn things into a chronological order. And my boss, who I love, like, he's my mentor, and he's a stonk guy. He's got like 200 grand in like Allstate, and he checks the prices of Allstate as much as I do Bitcoin. He gives me shit about Bitcoin, and rightfully so. He's 56 years old, and I can never articulate why I know that it's the only investment. He shares my values like 100%. So what I want to try and do is hone my message into something that other people are going to understand. At least this is just me shaking up my bones, trying to figure out how I can make the best argument. And all right, here it goes. Let's talk about the Cantillon effect. I'm going to start from the base of somebody who doesn't even know what the Cantillon effect is. The Cantillon effect is a phenomenon that is a priori provable, meaning you don't have to trust me telling you it. You can prove it in your own head that it's true. And let's use some easy numbers. If there's 10 people on an island and they have 100 units of currency, and the price of a coconut is 1 unit of currency. Well, if you double the amount of units of currency to 200, what's the price of a coconut? Obviously, it's 2. However, if you increase the amount of that currency by 100, but you deliver all 100 of that newly created currency to one of those 10 people, what's the price of a coconut after you just double the money supply? It's still 1. Now, if he goes and buys 100 coconuts, somewhere between 1 and 100, it's going to be 2. But if he goes and buys other things in the market besides coconuts, he might be able to buy them all for what their original price was before the money supply increased 2x. Let's do this just supply side of the money. Let's talk about there's other ways. And the reason people don't like the Cantillon effect is because not a single person on the planet likes to have the money that they're using to preserve their purchasing power into the future, so that they can buy something in the future that they had to spend their hard-earned labor to earn. No one wants that. But there's another way to steal their purchasing power without ever increasing the money supply, and that's if you lose demand for that currency. So you can still have the 10 people, 100 units of currency. Let's say 5 of those people wanted to leave that currency. They no longer demanded it. What would the price of a coconut be if 5 people left? It would be 2. Because effectively, you doubled the amount of the currency for the remaining 5 users, because they just dumped 50 units onto the remaining 5 users. Now, you can do it in a way where, like the Cantillon effect. The first defector of that currency is like, no, I don't like this currency. They leave to another currency, maybe a currency that's also finite but doesn't have 10 users, has 1,000. So they leave and they had 10 units of currency, they dump 10 on the remaining 9 users. So now each user has to absorb 1.1 units of currency. They just lost 11% of their purchasing power. Then the second guy who leaves, he dumps 11.1 onto the remaining 8 users. I don't want to do that math in my head, but up to 5, it graduates from the first person who leaves. Everyone loses 11.1% of their purchasing power. All the way to the 5th person who leaves, they all lose 50% of their purchasing power. That's Brent Johnson's dollar milkshake theory applied to finite monies. That's why all the copies of Bitcoin, which were finite, they weren't stealing from you by inflation, but they were stealing from you because they were lesser finite monies. So all the people who valued finite money that didn't steal from them ended up going to the largest market cap money, finite money, which is Bitcoin, and we're dumping the laggards who fell behind. It's the same thing with fiats. Like, yes, the dollar steals from you. It has to by very nature of it being a debt-based Ponzi scheme. But all fiats are that way. So everyone wants to leave their fiat that steals from them for a fiat that steals from them too, but because of the offset of the demand for the dollar, it kind of makes it feel less shitty. But fast forward ahead to where you get you kill every other fiat. You lost new demand, and you still have to steal from the people who use it by 5, whatever, 7. At that point, it's probably going to be like 20% annually. And then what happens when you look at the Bitcoin pair that doesn't steal from you? And we're talking maybe 10, 20, 30 years in the future, where we have market cap parity, which means Bitcoin's no longer volatile. Bitcoin just steadily appreciates, while the dollar steadily depreciates by the rate of increase of its money supply. But then each user of the dollar that jumps off and joins Bitcoin, that appreciates more and more and more because people are adding to it, and because it's finite, it has to appreciate. But they're dumping their bags on people who are already getting stolen from, even if no one was leaving. So the dollar doesn't just go straight down and Bitcoin goes straight up. The dollar goes